Nations, 38 concert tours worldwide, 11 studio albums that span 4 decades, the Titans of Thrash remain the standard by which all other metal is measured. We begin with a 1984 classic from their second album, For Whom the Bell Tolls, followed by the 1992 tour anthem, Wherever I May Roam. And then, let's turn down the house and light up the stage for the Auburn University Marching Band and their show, Metallica.
Thursday evening has arrived once again, and that means it's time for us to preview the next Auburn football game for the 2024 season. Auburn versus Texas A&M is what's up next. We're going to preview and predict what's going to happen throughout this game. And, of course, a lot of your input coming up, too. Let's get into all those things right now. War Eagle, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we share the Auburn experience. What is the Auburn experience? Well, we define it as a few different things: Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and, of course, Auburn family stuff, just to get everything into there. If you need me to pinpoint it down even further for you, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So we thank you so much for joining us in what we do, especially tonight on this live stream. What's up tonight on this live stream, especially for those of you watching live, but also welcome to those that may be catching the replay. We are going to be previewing and predicting the results of the Auburn versus Texas A&M football game upcoming for the 2024 season, the 11th game in the 2024 season for Auburn football. So many things on the line for both teams, very different things on the line for both teams. Auburn trying to salvage a season, Texas A&M trying to make something special happen. What we do know is we are in for probably a great game on a Saturday night, very cool, maybe cold even, football in the Southeast. And so there are so many other angles to look forward to and get excited about. So we're going to get into all those things, the offense, the defense, the special teams, and all the other information that you need to know about this game's coming up right now. But get the show started off on a good note for us, for you as well. Go ahead and smash that like button if you enjoy our content. If you're a regular here, if you're a returner here, we appreciate you being here. And let us know that you're here by saying hello in the chat, and we can know who's hanging out with us, where you're watching from, all that good stuff. And certainly you can do the same on the replay if you're doing that, or if you're a first timer here, welcome, and please consider subscribing so you can make sure you take part in things like this in the future. So much to get into tonight. Certainly, we've got a lot to go through as we do every single preview and prediction show. But what we want to start off with first, as everybody gears up, gets in here into the chat, is by giving you some information that may be useful for you. Because the goal of this live stream is to have fun, obviously, and interact a little bit with you all, get your perspectives on the game. But certainly our goal is that you walk away from our live stream or the information that we're putting out here feeling more informed about what we think we know. That's the key term there, about Auburn and Texas A&M and their matchup that's coming up in Jordan-Hare Stadium in only a day or so at this point, really a day and a half at this. I guess technically it would be just under 2 days at the time of this recording because it's a 6:30 kickoff their time. So certainly it is fast approaching. So we're going to move into the informational portion of our show this evening and give you guys that first, the rundown of information that might be interesting to you. I always stress this too. Feel free to, if you can do it on the live stream, certainly, feel free to pause this. It's probably more useful on the replay to do that. Or come back to it. These are documents that you can find yourselves out there, but we're going to bring them up to you. We're not going to go through every bit of information that is out there on all of these sheets, but certainly there are some things that we want to point out to you that are important to know about the game, the matchup, the two teams, and will inform some of the things that we discuss tonight in our predictions portion of the show. So about a third of the show here is going to be our intro and preview, and then we'll move into the last 2/3 of predictions. So let's get into those things for you all right now. What we're bringing up on the screen is a document that Auburn puts out every single week. So if you're a regular here, you're used to this, some form of this. I think it's showing up pretty good on the screen too. So we'll go with that and start there. Obviously, you know when the game is. We've talked about it. 6:30 Central Time on ESPN. Auburn versus Texas A&M in Jordan-Hare Stadium, the 11th game overall, and will be a prime time matchup for the Tigers to display their fan base and how hyped they get for night games in Jordan Hare. We've been waiting for this for a long time. First and third games, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. I believe those are the only 2 night games this year. Excuse me. And the only night games for no night games for an SEC team, because it would have been Alabama A&M, and I can't even remember who the other win was against. New Mexico, not New Mexico State, New Mexico. Certainly, we'll take them no matter who it is, but it's nice to get a SEC night game finally in Jordan Hare Stadium. Important to note here, it is senior day. I would ask that you guys take the time to go familiarize yourself with that long list you'll see on this sheet under senior day. Who all is leaving us this year? A lot of people have been asking that recently on some live streams, who does and doesn't have eligibility left. Well, necessarily doesn't mean that somebody doesn't have eligibility left in this list, but this is who is scheduled to graduate. People like Luke Deal, who have been here forever, they're going to be leaving. And while they may not be the most prominent names in terms of stat sheets, they have been very important in getting Auburn over the hump in terms of this rough few years that they've had. So names like that, Jason Jones has been around for a while, Jarquez Hunter being a prominent name. Keep that in mind as we as you think about these guys and celebrate the team and these seniors that are going to be doing that. Quick personal note that I'm just noticing, we're also going to be recognizing Larry Chapman, my former head coach at Auburn University Montgomery, when I played my 1 year as a walk-on for the basketball team there. So that'll be cool to see him go out there and be recognized in some way. All right, if we look at the series history, I guess go back up to the top real quick. You can see, obviously, our record. We're very familiar with that, but their record's 8-2, 5-1 in the SEC. Only lost to South Carolina, who's caught a few people off guard this season. So it's not a really bad loss when you think about it right now. First year under Mike Elko, which I think we all were a little bit perplexed by the choice. Not perplexed, that's not the right term, but we were intrigued by the choice of Mike Elko for Texas A&M after Jimbo Fisher, but certainly it's not working out too bad in his first year. Series history, Texas A&M leads all-time series with Auburn 8-6 margin, so we could cut that down to 8-7. Certainly they can begin to expand their lead a little bit, and you can see where it all dates back to some history about the matchup overall. Last time we played here in Jordan Hare was that special night under Cadillac Williams as an interim head coach and won 13-10. A little bit of a nail biter, but certainly was a very magical evening. Things under the kickoff coverage, you'll see some important facts to keep in mind about this team, about where Auburn ranks in some statistics that are important. We've talked a lot about KLS, how much he's been in the upper group of the SEC and nation as far as a receiver this year. If you look at that, the Tigers are ranked 4th nationally with 14 pass plays of at least 40 yards on the year. Auburn's been able to move the ball. They've just not been able to move the ball into the end zone as much as they should, / move it into, at certain times early in the year, move it out of the hands of the defenders and things like that. You can look at some of Jarquez's superlatives there and look at all of the other things about statistics about last games played in Auburn, where they how much success they are and are having in the last game of the year in Jordan Hare Stadium and how they've been doing good this year. We'll move on to the next page here. This is not a lot of new information here, but this is the depth chart for any of our Texas A&M fans that may be tuning in as well. You can look here and see what the depth chart, and I say depth chart with quotes because Freeze does continue to say that it is just an operating document and not necessarily a set in stone thing, but certainly Peyton has been officially no longer with Hank, moved into the first spot there. Really the only movement that's happened is maybe on the offensive line, but that's been the same for a while now. And of course, there's been absolutely nothing on the defensive side of the ball that has changed, with everybody considered a starter, as you can see there. But what is new-ish is Ian Vochan. I still have Vochan. I have still not learned how to pronounce his name, as the official place kicker for Auburn moving forward, with, interesting enough, Alex McPherson listed behind him, but we'll look at the injury list here shortly, and that would leave that up to question. Towns as the kickoff person, and everybody else is pretty much the same. Looking at our next sheet here, we'll look at this one briefly and then look at Texas A&M's documents to give you a little bit more information on the day. If you look at this, down in that bottom right corner is the main thing. Certainly, you can look at the rest of the sheet if you're interested. And you can see the last game that we played up there with them 10-27, a very frustrating game in College Station. So if you look at this, and this is something that I'll try to reference back for you, this gives you obviously Auburn's comparison in these certain stat groups compared to their opponents versus Texas A&M and their opponents. Important to note who the leaders are in each category for Auburn and Texas A&M. Hunter and Alston leading the way, Moss and Daniels in the rushing categories for both teams. And then you got to look out for Marcel Reed, who is apparently, and I'm guessing has officially secured the starting job with the way things are going for him right now. Peyton Thorne and Hank Brown leading the way at passing. And then receiving, Barber and Thomas are the names to know apparently for Texas A&M. But certainly, if you look at Auburn's receivers, a little bit more impressive statistically, at least individually, than even Texas A&M right now. And Dorian Mausi continues to be our lead guy tackling wise, but and Jaron Thompson-McLeod. I don't think it's changed that much for the last couple of weeks for our top defenders guys in terms of those statistics. York, Brooks, and Ratcliffe, I should say, are your top ones for Texas A&M to keep in mind. All right, we'll move into Texas A&M's sheets that they have. Not a lot of new stuff here, but we will at least just check it out for a second. This is their depth chart. I don't know if that's important to you or not. It does have Connor Weigman still listed as the starter based off of this. But my understanding is that Marcel Reed will be the starter, or is basically considered the starter, or at least very least plays a ton. So take that with a grain of salt there, but at least give you an idea of who to expect where, starting running back, starting wide receivers, all that kind of stuff, defensive ends, things like that to keep in mind as you go forward, special teams. And if you need to pronounce anything there, I guess I could have looked for Weigman. Is he on there? I don't see him on there right now at first glance. Weigman. There he is. Wigman. I got it right that time. Okay, next sheet for them. This is probably the more important informational sheet, and there is a ton of stuff that you could go through here, but you can see, different things for A&M versus their opponent. That's a bigger version of what we showed in that short version over there, how they're doing home versus away, winning versus the coin toss, things like that. But what I have always found pretty interesting is this chart, or this portion of these stat sheets that we continue to find on each of these sheets, breaking down the score by quarter for each of the team for Texas A&M and their opponents. And it may tell the tale of the tape of how this might go. So right now, if you look at Texas A&M's second quarter. That is where they are making their money by a decent enough margin. 85 points in the first quarter this season for them as well, which is pretty good, but certainly less points in the second half. Opponents are doing good in the first quarter, bad in the second quarter, and then getting progressively better as the game goes on. Now, you may say that's because you slowed down versus some other opponents that you were supposed to beat, and that may be true, but it looks like Auburn may be well-positioned to take advantage of the third and fourth quarter when they are slowing down offensively, especially when they face the challenge of Jordan-Hare Stadium at night. All right, the last thing that we're going to bring up for you is the injury sheet. This is very important. I think it's very important to know what's going on. And right now, it's just the Texas A&M one I have. I thought I had the Auburn one for you. Basically, the only new thing I think that was listed on the Auburn one was a questionable status for, who was it? Caleb Wooden, I think is what, a backup defensive back. Everything else should be the same. Those that were out, including Alex McPherson, is listed as out for this game. So his health has definitely not improved. But if you look at for Texas A&M, you'll see the names there listed on the sheet who are listed as out, doubtful, and questionable. But this is as of yesterday. That could have changed today and may even change tomorrow. So keep that in mind. We're just operating off of what we know currently at this time. So there you have it. That is all the information that I wanted to give you. The last thing that I always like to do as we move into our predictions part of the show, and we'll start talking with you guys a little bit more, is look at the old ESPN predictions part of all of this. Now, when I look at this, I look for a couple things on here that I think we're going to find most interesting. We'll move over here for you all. On ESPN, if you look at their matchup predictor, keep in mind the context here. This is at home for Auburn versus Texas A&M. You're going to find that on there currently 57.7% think that Texas A&M will win to 42.3% with Auburn. So this is as a quick test to just kind of get your typing fingers ready, because there's going to be a lot of interaction in this part of the show, and we're going to need you to type, a lot in this. Let me get from you guys a quick answer. Do you think that 57.7% confidence that Texas A&M will win this game is too high or too low? None of this. It's just right. If you had to be pushed too high or too low, what would you say in the chat right now to get things kind of geared up and going? Get you guys used to that. This is like your practice round. 57.7% that Texas A&M wins this matchup in Auburn. Too high or too low? What say you? While you're thinking about those things, a couple of shout outs here for people that are already here hanging out with me. Neil's here. Quentin was here earlier. Corey. Wow. Oof. I hope we don't break Weigman's leg again. Yeah, Texas A&M fans were not happy with us last time. A couple answers rolling in for too high or too low. We've got one too high, one too low. So Corey's not very high on that. Too low for WT. Okay, we got a more that think that Texas A&M should be favored by more in this. If you guys haven't forgot, we did unfortunately hurt Weigman. I can stop saying Weigman in the last time that we played them there. So too high, too low. I don't, if I had to be pushed to something, I would say it's probably a little too high. It's close to where I would have it, but I will say I would be more comfortable with it being more in like the low 50s, maybe 55. And I know we're just arguing a percentage point or two here, but that is what it is. We'll get to score predictions in a little bit, but if we look at the line right now, where did it go? It went away from me. My goodness, why is it gone? Here it is. Currently, Texas A&M is favored by 2.5 points. Save your score predictions for the end, Terry. Everybody's getting a little antsy giving their score predictions too early. We'll do that at the end of the show. If you can't stay for the whole show, that's fine. Usually one person does it like Quentin did earlier, and then it gets everybody else stirred up. 2.5 is the spread. Too high? Too low? What do you think? Too high? Too low? Let's get an answer for that. We asked about the percentage, but I'm curious, do you think Texas A&M should be expected to win by more than that or less than that? Even if it's an Auburn win, it would be less than that. So what do you think? Anybody got any input on that? Stan, I think, still wants to maintain with the too high. WT says, if the spread is that, then you bet Texas A&M. Too low? Too low? Not a lot of confidence, it sounded like, from some people tonight. Wow, man, we gotta get energized here and be a little bit more hopeful about all these things. I think it's I'm good with it. I'm good with the spread the way it is. I think Texas A&M should be favored to win this game based on all those things. But I am happy that it is as close as it is because it's in Jordan-Hare at night. And there's a lot on the line for Auburn. There is also a lot on the line for Texas A&M. But to me, it makes a lot of sense that it would be this close, but still in Texas A&M's favor. Robbie says, I like it. I think our defense is going to keep us in the game. I certainly think you may be onto something there. We'll get into some details about the defense here in just a little bit with our predictions. But certainly that will be a strong point of that if Auburn can take care of the ball. Turnovers wise, not give them extra opportunities, can keep that energy up all game. I think we'll find ourselves in a position to be very successful. Quentin's calling for the best game from Peyton. It certainly would be a great swan song for him to go out on a high note, kind of like what Barrett Trotter did. And I would say Jarrett Stidham too. Jarrett Stidham, I think that last year didn't have the most amazing year, but he did have a great end to that in the bowl game, grant you. But it would be nice for Peyton to go out in a very strong way. Save the best for last. I mean, I wish he hadn't saved it, but WT says, if the spread looks like that, it means there's a fairly even betting on both sides. That's how I've always understood it, but obviously I'm not big into all the betting and stuff like that. All right, let's get into the official part of our predictions part of the show. And Corey even says if it was at Kyle Field, it'd be an easy W. Texas A&M can't beat us at home for some reason. Ooh, call out there. All right, let's get into this here. Predictions. We're going to start with offense, then defense, then special teams, and we will end with our score predictions. Hold the score predictions to the end of the show unless you need to leave and can't stay for the whole time. Let's get into it right now. This is our offensive statistical things that we want to talk about. On offense, these are your predictions that you put in the chat. How many passing yards and passing touchdowns will Auburn have in this game? Auburn's offense. How many passing yards and passing touchdowns will Auburn have in this game? Now, the crazy thing about this is that last game will just throw you for a loop. 5 touchdowns from Peyton Thorne, 2 to Cam Coleman. Yeah, 2 to Cam Coleman. 3 to Cam Coleman. Still a great day for KLS. It is a different opponent, a much weaker opponent, but certainly something to think about. To give you some comparisons here, Auburn as a passing team right now is currently having 256.2 yards per game, and Texas A&M is allowing 220.4 to their opponents passing wise. So I don't know if that'll help inform you guys in any way, but how many passing touchdowns, how many passing yards will Auburn have in this game? We've got Stan with 180-1, a little on the lower side than what we're used to, I think. 210-3. 3 touchdowns to Cam Coleman again. Hope for 3 and at least 200. So looks like we've got some things coming in. Bryant, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for hanging out. We've got a 280 from Quentin. Any touchdowns, though? So no touchdowns? No touchdowns, Quentin? Just 280 passing yards? I'm going to look. I look at this where we are normally getting 256 and they're allowing 220. I think that makes a lot of sense for us to fall somewhere in the middle of that. I'm going to say we pass for about 225 and 1 passing touchdown. I don't think it's going to be as prolific of a passing game, although I think we'll throw the ball around a considerable amount. A few others coming in. Brian Harson, 240, 2 touchdowns with Quentin's 280. So there you go. Corey says, I think their D will get burned at least once. I think we've got the weapons and the capability to do that to them. The question is, what are they going to be able to do to put pressure on Thorne in that offensive line to keep him from getting into a rhythm and get the juices flowing and all that type of stuff. So let's keep going there. Remember, don't move ahead in our stuff too much, Quentin. Quentin's like just jumping right in, but I'm asking it now. Your next question is, how many rushing touchdowns will we have as an offense versus Texas A&M? How many rushing yards and how many rushing touchdowns will we have versus Texas A&M? Put that in the chat right now for your predictions. Lock it in. Auburn is getting 172 yards rushing per game average. They're allowing 124.4. So where does it give? Does that mean Auburn will get more? Does that mean that Auburn will have less? Will they be closer to their 124, closer to our 172? I do think that there will be an emphasis, as some have already said, on the run game here. If for nothing else, this is Jarquez Hunter's last game, and he's meant so much to this team, this program, and certainly want to give him his due. Now, it is not just as simple as so many of I tried to help you see. It's not just as simple as hand the ball to Jarquez more, and that's going to fix all our problems. Can't do that if you want to win the game if it's not working. So my hope is it will be working. We'll have a great performance out of the offensive line. There'll be a complimentary passing game that will give Jarquez the opportunity to eat and eat big at home in his swan song as well for this team. 270-2, 145-1. That falls right in the middle, Jacob, of those two stats that we talked about. 160-2, very similar. Hunter for 1 touchdown and 100 yards. Exactly. I'll take it. If he gets 100 yards, I think we're doing pretty good. 150 and 0. I think our run game will be a bit stale in this game. So we got some wide range of opinions in this one. I'm going to sit somewhere at one. Here's what I think. I think Jarquez will fight and gut it out to get to 100 yards. I think we're going to have a combo of about 50 yards between Damari, Jeremiah, and probably Malcolm running something weird. I think Peyton will have to use his legs a little bit and get a few yards. So I think that puts us somewhere in the ballpark of like 160, maybe close to what we normally average here. I'll go ahead and say 175 rushing today. I think we have a better rushing than our statistical average in this game. Quentin says, I think Hunter's about to cut up, jumping over people, running through people for 225 yards or a little more, as Robbie said. Okay, so that's our rushing and passing statistics. Let's take a little different angle. How many sacks will Auburn allow to its quarterbacks? Whether it's Peyton the whole game, whether it's somebody else in there, how many sacks will Auburn allow to its quarterbacks in this game? What do you think? I don't think I have a stat here that's going to reflect that, at least handy. I'm looking really quick to see if there's something listed here that's easy to see. I don't see it listed on my sacks. No, it's not listed there. But how many sacks do you think? I feel like, obviously, last game is sort of an anomaly with who you're playing. That gives you a little bit better picture that we are capable of blocking for him. But when you're playing against Texas A&M talent, so keep in mind of this about Texas A&M. Mike Elko is playing with a lot of the talent that Jimbo assembled, but wasn't able to put together as a good team. Now, certainly there's been transfers. We've got Isaiah Rakes. We didn't talk about that earlier, who came over from technically USC, but originally from Texas A&M. And this is DJ Durkin is also his return as well. Not return, but playing his old team. It's going to be talent. It's going to be tough to keep them away from Thorne or out of the backfield, excuse me, for the running game. So a couple of you are giving some predictions. Look at a couple of them coming in. Quentin's worried about him. Still not sold on the offensive line. Can protect Thorne well enough. Hoping for none, but for 2 and 3. So certainly it looks like we all expect there to be a few. But to be honest with you, we're seeing no more predictions here than 4. I do think that Peyton will face some troubles. At least to start off the game. It seems like we get off to slow starts against the better talented teams. And usually, and I mean by that, by a couple sacks. I wouldn't be surprised if we get out of the first half with 3 sacks. So I'm going to have a little faith and say that's it, though. Only 3 sacks the whole game. I'm going to stick with you guys there. Thorne needs to get the ball out quick, but at least he can scramble a bit. Certainly, I think they're going to set him up to get the ball out quick, but we also want to give time for some of those deeper plays to develop because that's been successful for us this year, as some of the statistics have shown of us being ranked, I think, 4th in passing yards, or passing plays of 40-plus yards. So we want to continue to maximize those efforts if we can. Your next question for offensive predictions, as I try to find my sheet. There it is. And we're revising this question from who is going to be the top rusher, unless you have a different opinion. You have a different rusher. But other than that, specifically, how many rushing yards? Let's just do rushing yards, not even touchdowns, because Jarquez hasn't had a lot of rushing touchdowns this year, which is weird. How many rushing yards do you predict Jarquez Hunter to have in this game? Unless you want to take the angle of somebody else is going to lead in rushing. And then the question then becomes in these scenarios, what do you mean in leading by rushing? Rushing yards, how many touchdowns? Because Damari could have 2 rushing touchdowns and 20 yards, and Jarquez could have 100 yards and no touchdowns, and you would at least make the case that Damari, did really well in crunch time right there in the end zone, or right there near to the end zone, to the red zone. I think Chris gave us something from a previous question that came in a little bit early, but certainly you might have to refresh if you feel like you're a little bit behind in chat. Stan says 165 for Jarquez. That's pretty good. Jarquez 122 for Terry. I think he's going to just crack the century mark again, like 101, 102, 103, something like that, probably on about 17 carries. That feels about right for me. Tim says only 87 yards. I hope he has a better, and I know that's not that much different from what I was predicting, but I really hope that he cracks that 100-yard mark in this game because that'll feel special to him. It'll make everybody happy for him. Hunter over 100, Thorne for 30, Cobb for 20. There's your breakdown. Hunter gets 85, but I really hope he goes over 100 for the dub. There you go. Some predictions there. Okay, let's move to the next question. Only two more in the offensive category. Again, this may be a question where you say it's obvious who's going to be the top receiver, but there's been times where it's not. So who is going to be Auburn's top receiver versus Texas A&M? You at least have somebody that showed you last week that can give him a run for his money. And I would argue there are a few other options as well. But whereas we started this year and you asked the question of who is it going to be, and there's a wide range, I think we have clearly narrowed it down to your best options for receiving numbers across the board are going to be KLS, Malcolm Simmons, or Cam Coleman. I would say we at one point I was hoping Rivaldo would factor more into this, but it looks like it's going to be one of those three. So what do you guys say? Or you correct me if I'm wrong on what you think it is. Coleman, we got KLS, but I think Simmons has a game with the short passes. That certainly looks like where we've been utilizing him a lot, just getting the ball into his hands. But what a beautiful pass. Just a total beautiful sequence between him and Simmons, Peyton and Simmons in the last game. Hit him in complete stride about 20 yards down the way. He cuts through the middle of two defenders and runs for the touchdown. I mean, it was just absolutely beautiful. Simmons, but I would really like to see Perry get more involved. Certainly, I think that would be great. I don't think Perry is going to factor large enough as opposed to those other three, but I am very willing to be wrong. KLS with 125. I am going to say that it will be KLS. He is the guy that's about to leave. He is the guy that I hope we send him off. Can you tell I'm being very sentimental tonight? I'm hoping that so many of those guys have great nights. Simmons reminds me of Ontario, minus him not being a running back, right? So there's all your predictions coming in. Again, just as a reminder, a lot of y'all's responses are coming in late, so you may want to refresh because it will catch you up if you ever hit those ads or anything like that. No big if you don't want to do that. We'll just want to make you guys aware of that from time to time. Those ads are necessary, though, for us to continue to do what we do. So it is a burden that we deal with and that you have to deal with. All right, final question on the offensive side of the ball. This is one we added this year. What will Auburn's third down percentage be? Excuse me. As an offense, what will Auburn's third down percentage be as an offense? I'm going to look up for you to see if I can find this on Texas A&M sheet. Third down conversions, they are allowing 33% to their opponents. So 1 out of every 3 they are allowing to their opponents. What say you? Keep in mind it's at home. Certainly that should work in your favor a little bit. I would argue that the third down conversion situation would be more something you would affect on the defensive side of the ball, getting the crowd loud, making it hard for them to make the changes at the line, things like that. Hopefully you're not making it too difficult for your third down, but the excitement just roars up, in general. So here are a bunch of people rolling in with some predictions. 55%. That's pretty good, Stan. It's pretty good. 48%, close to 50%. We got a 39%, some oddly specific ones tonight. Still higher than what they're allowing to their opponents, that being Texas A&M. I said this a little bit earlier when we talked about sacks. I feel like we're going to have some things happen that don't go our way so much in the first half, get off to slow starts, and that may drop that percentage down a little bit and get progressively better throughout the game. There's a 35%. So Stan is our highest at this point. Terry seems to be our lowest. Looks like if we average those out, we would fall somewhere into the mid 40s, probably. which I think would be pretty good. That'd be significantly higher than they're allowing to their opponents right now. So I will predict we will do 40%. I'm going to cut the middle there. 40% of our third down conversions because we get off to such a slow start in this game in my prediction. All right, that's your offense right there. We've made it through the big chunk of it tonight, so let's keep moving. We're moving on to defense. Some of you have already said in this particular game that you think this is going to be the difference. They certainly have impressed this year by having a rougher start, needing to make some adjustments, playing a lot of young talent, and that young talent is now not only playing, contributing, but making big moments, whether we're talking about DeMarcus Reddick, we're talking about Malik Blockton, if we're talking about Keldrick Falk, who's still young, but obviously he's been around for 2 years. I'm talking about Jay Crawford, so many others, Kay and Lee, that are true freshmen, true sophomores, redshirt freshmen that are doing big things on the defense. For your first question tonight on defense, how many passing yards and passing touchdowns will Texas A&M have in this game? I will give you some figures to think about. So for Texas A&M, their passing game is doing 199.9 per game. 0.1 away from 200 a game. 199.9 per game. Auburn, listen to this. Defensively is allowing 200.3. So what they earn passing and we give up passing on defense is literally separated by 0.4. 0.4. How crazy is that? There's so much like we ask the question sometimes when we're comparing these things, what's going to give? There's not much room to give. So should we just make it really simple and say it's an even 200? How hilarious would it be if we had an even 200? Just split it right down the middle. That would basically be the middle, maybe 200.1. Yeah, 200.1. So there's some information for you to consider if you're wanting to make a prediction with that. 180 and 2 touchdowns. What's up, Hillbilly? Good to see you. 2 and 165, 160 and 2 touchdowns. So everybody so far is lower than that 200. As much as I've been proud of that young defense, that young defensive back group, I do think that they're going to find a way to get an explosive player or two that's really going to launch up their passing yards. And I hope I'm wrong on that because I think we're going to be working really hard to shut down Marcel Reed's running attack at quarterback. And he may even trick us a little bit and throw something over the top. 2 and hold them to 170, 199.4. Oh, and 2 I was like, -2 and 2 touchdowns. I am going to say that we hold them to 190 and 2 passing touchdowns. A lot of you have said, 2 passing touchdowns. There's 2 passing touchdowns. There's 2. There's 2. Everybody has predicted 2 passing touchdowns. So, but I think if we can do no worse than that, we'll be in a position to be competitive. Okay. How many rushing yards and rushing touchdowns will Auburn's defense allow to Texas A&M in this game? Rushing for Auburn that they're allowing to their opponents is 104.5, which I would argue is excellent. Texas A&M is gaining 124. That's how much they're allowing. 212.5. That's more like it. And when I read that, I was like, that's it for the rushing and Marcel Reed. This is probably where they're going to hope to make their bread and butter. 212.5 is what they're allowing, or they're gaining on rushing, and we're allowing 104. So something's got to give. What is it going to be? What is going to be? So you can put the pressure on him, but he can elude that if you put too much pressure on him and leave an open field for him. Certainly you want to make him uncomfortable, though. 90 and 1 stands very high on the defense. Only 90 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. I'd like to think that we could keep Marcel Reed from breaking one loose like the Arkansas quarterback did, but I'm concerned closer up to the end zone, will he just, roll out on something and then fly in there for a touchdown? I think that is going to be a given. Terry says one rushing touchdown and 180. Their rushing attack doesn't look okay. We got Moss has 765 yards, 6.3 per carry. So there's something. They've got somebody to complement Marcel Reed in his running ability. So it's not as compared to us. We have an 1,000-yard rusher and then a 200-yard rusher. They have a 760 and a 550 guy. So two guys that have done at least something significant this year. 225 and 2 touchdowns. I'm going to predict that they will get at least one rushing touchdown and probably in the neighborhood of probably 200 rushing yards. I hate it, but they've done so well against the rushing attack. I am concerned that they are going to have run into some issues with that again. Not again, but run into some issues with this team. They seem like they have the talent to be able to do so. 80 and 0. It's not bad. 1 and 150 coming in. So there you go. All right, your next stat. Your next stat for defense. Who will Auburn's top tackler be in this game? Gave you the information earlier to consider. Currently, your top 3 tacklers are Dorian Mausi, Jaron Thompson, and Jalen McLeod. Keep in mind that while Dorian Mausi has been there up at the top a lot, last week he wasn't. In many other games, he wasn't as well. But certainly, he should be someone that's at top of mind for you. But which Auburn defender will be the top tackler? And start thinking about what this team is most likely going to do, run the ball. So that's probably going to put you, if we're keeping them in check, a top tackler in the linebacker defensive end spot, edge rusher spot. Maybe not a Jaron Thompson this time. Hopefully, if he's making a bunch of the tackles this time, that may be a bad sign that they were getting into the second and third level of the defense on the rushing attack. So I'm going to probably say it's going to be a linebacker, which would think Dorian Mausi would be it. What about DeMarcus Reddick? He's had some great games. There's been a lot of people saying that DeMarcus is athletic enough to keep him in check in like a spy situation. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. But I'll take the popular pick this time. I will say DeMarcus Reddick. I'm down. I'm with it. We got a couple of regulars in here. Mausi, Falk. Falk's a good one too. That could be a good pick if we get a lot of pressure on the quarterback and keep him contained. Derek, I almost called him Derek Hall. Keldrick Falk and Jalen McLeod both coming in from the edge and giving this guy some fits could be a big factor for Auburn in the tackling department. All right, our time's doing pretty good, but we probably need to hustle if you want to hustle. Your next prediction I need from you, and if you want to give all, this is a combination one, so try to keep it in order if you're going to be predicting all of these. How many sacks, fumbles, and interceptions will Auburn's defense have in this game? How many sacks will they get? How many fumbles recovered? Don't do this recovered or not recovered, just recovered. And interceptions will Auburn have in this game? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to jump out and say that we're going to have an interception in this one. I think we will force Marcel Reed to throw something a little bit too late or too early when he's on the run. Looking at him, let's see. Reed has only thrown 2 interceptions, so that's a bit of a step out for me in 140 attempts. Wigman has thrown 5 in 114 attempts. So that's something to consider. But I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with that we have at least 1 interception here. Here are some of y'all's predictions coming in. So we got 3 1-1, 2 1-2, 4 1-0, 3 sacks, 0 fumbles, 1 interception. I'm going to predict we have 4 sacks, stepping out a little bit, no fumble recoveries, and 1 interception. And I think the 1 interception could come at the most crucial hour for Auburn in this game. There's 3 1-1 for you all. There you go. All right, let's keep moving here. Our final defensive one here, and we'll wrap up with special teams, and we'll do a Q&A at the end if you guys would like to. Special teams. Oh, sorry. Defensively, yes or no, will Auburn have a defensive touchdown in this game? Yes or no, will Auburn have a defensive touchdown in this game? Yes or no? Meaning a recovered fumble, meaning a obviously INT. Stand with the emphatic yes. With the emphatic yes. No, no. How many interceptions on the year? I don't have that number in front of me right now, but it's not been a lot. And Stan says, finally. I'm going to be honest with you, Stan. I'm kind of in the camp with you, and I kind of showed my hand right there. I am banking on Auburn to get this win in a close game on one crucial defensive moment where somebody makes the play and runs this thing back. What I'm going to predict, that Eugene Asante, off of a tip pass, gets the interception and somehow rumbles and stumbles his way all the way for a pick six. Eugene Asante. And imagine, we talk about this, right? This is the last game for so many of these guys, special players like Eugene. I mean, they're all special, but some of us we've connected with stronger, like Eugene, because he's put himself out there. How awesome would that be to see Eugene Asante run it back on senior night? He said, it's this night game, so yes. Very nice. All right, let's do special teams rapid fire here so we can get you guys enough time for Q&A. Special teams, how many punts in this game? How many punts will we have? Let me see if I can find any stats for you guys on that. They are allowing... Well, they're allowing 41.6 per punt. They've allowed 35 punts this year, so I don't know how you would average that out to 11 games. Somebody do the math. That's 1 point something punts per game. That surely can't be right. But anyway, I'm trying to do math on the fly. Terry says block punt. So we got 4. We're just doing punts, though. Just how many punts will we have on that? Not how many they'll have. 4 punts. I think I like to always think about it this way. How many punts can we have in this game and still be successful? And that I factor that into my equation. I think when you start having more than 4 punts a game, you're getting into a territory where it's very dangerous. But I do think where Auburn's going to find itself is in a struggle in the first half and have to punt a lot, getting its numbers up, kind of like I said about sacks way early, but maybe gets better progressively throughout the night, maybe even fighting back from a deficit. So I like that 4 prediction. There's a 3, there's a 4. I'm going to go with 4 punts in this game. But Oscar Chapman is going to do what the leg from down under has done so well and put them into a dangerous situation. I'm going to say he puts them inside the 5-yard line one time. There's a 6 from Tim. Ooh, we get 6, we're not going to win, I think. If we get 6 punts or have to punt 6 times, we ain't winning. All right, so special teams, a couple more things here. How many field goals attempted and made, or made and attempted, however you like, made and attempted in this game for you? Ian is the new kicker. Alex looks like he's basically done for the year, just based on how things have trended the last couple of games. Towns has been moved over to kickoff guy. Glad they're still using him. 100% for the new guy. So I think everybody should feel a lot more comfortable with that. What say you? I think we're going to have some efforts from the kicking game for us to win this game. So, how many do you say? How many we got? 1 for 1. Oh, Lotto. Everybody's taking each other's cue here. 1 for 1. So all the way across. I think I'm going to be a little unoriginal tonight too. I'm going to say 1 for 1. Hopefully we don't put him in situations where it's going to get uncomfortable, like it's inside the 30. No longer than like a 35, something like that. Ooh, Terry with a 2 for 3. So 1 miss, but 2 field goals from Ian. I'll make another prediction if Ian goes 100% on field goals on the night. Actually, there's so much that he could go 100% and we'd not score anything else and things go bad. I was going to say if he's 100%, we win. That's not necessarily going to be the case. 3 for 4, so a lot of attempts from Jacob. I'm going to say 1 for 1. I'm going to skip that one, but we'll do this last one for the sake of time. This is an important one, I think, and one that has been a factor for Auburn all season. It's more of a miscellaneous than a special teams, but we just included in this part. How many penalties will Auburn have in this game, and for how many yards will that be? Not that it factors, I guess it factors some. I'm going to look right here. Against their opponents, they are averaging 50. Texas A&M opponents are averaging 51.6 penalty yards per game. That doesn't feel like that much. That's a couple of personal fouls, 15-yard personal fouls, and you're basically on over halfway there. So I like to think of it as probably somewhere in the vein of having one pass interference, at least one offside. No, at one like holding penalty. So that's 30 right there, and 2. I have a feeling we're going to get a little chippiness in the game. There's a lot of them on the line for Auburn. There's a lot on the line for Texas A&M, and it's going to get a little bit chippy here. So I will say 6 penalties. 6 penalties for. I don't know if I showed everybody's here. 60 yards. 6 penalties for 60 yards. So if we got 6 holding penalties, which we'll lose if that happens, there you go, right there. But there's going to be a pass interference. I think there's going to be a holding. Wouldn't surprise me if there's a personal, like roughing the, out of late hits or something like that on either side. But I think this game is going to get a little bit of emotional, especially if Auburn, unfortunately, doesn't find itself in a strong position at the end of the game. There's going to be frustrations with everybody, the reality of things hitting in. So I think 6 penalties for 60 yards is going to be fair. All right. We're going to stop it right there. No more predictions other than your score. Right now, we have talked about the preview, all the information about the game that you could need, the storylines, the factors of all of that. We've talked about the significance for both teams. We talked about the significance of this night game, Auburn having a night game. We've talked about offense, defense, special teams, all the different angles and players and moments of time that it could possibly be. What is your score prediction right now? Lock it in the chat. What say you? And keep in mind, if you made a prediction that doesn't throughout the show, that doesn't line up perfectly with how many touchdowns you said Auburn might have or give up, that's fine. We're just talking through things here to help you get to a more informed prediction. So a lot of them are rolling in. We'll look at some of them in a little bit. I am going to say, remind you guys what I've said a lot about this team the last few games. I find it hard to believe against quality opponents that Auburn's going to get very much, is going to have a harder time getting a lot farther than 20, over the 20-point mark. Like I think they will do it, but I don't see them getting 25 plus confidently. So for Auburn to get a win, really, I can only allow them 24 and feel comfortable saying that. Even at home, I feel like I could comfortable predicting 24. The question is, will this defense give Auburn's offense the opportunity to make something special happen at home? They are very young. They are very mistake prone at times, but they are very skilled. And as I said, I think this could come down to a very singular moment in the game, maybe even a pick 6, like I predicted Eugene Asante, which may send us over the edge. So I'm going to make a very specific prediction for you. I think Auburn will be down 23-17 in the fourth quarter, and somebody will run a pick 6 back for Auburn to win and hold on 24-23. So there you have it. 24-23, Auburn wins. I'm going to give in to my Barnerness, my homerness, and that will be the win that I will predict. 24-17 Auburn, 31-23. Texas A&M 28-17. Looks like Terry is saying Auburn 21-17. 24-17 for WT. Ooh, 35-28. Auburn down 14 in the fourth quarter, but does the unthinkable with a Cam Coleman takeover. Ooh, that would be fun, Unbeaten Lake. That'd be a lot of fun. That would continue to build the legend that is Cam Coleman in a miraculous way. So there's your score predictions that people have offered. I've offered you mine. I'm on the record now. You're on the record. Let's move forward from here. All right, Q&A time. Love for you guys to ask any comments, questions, topics. Focus mainly about this game and the program right now. Put those in the chat, and we'll take those a couple reminders for you about what's coming up next here at E2C Network. If I lost my cue cards, where did they go? I've lost my place. There it is. All right, coming up next for you guys, keep in mind, we do live streams of Tiger Walk. It's the last one, folks. Please, if you can, please join us for that. If you're not there in person, we'd love to see you guys in the chat. There'll be a chat available for you guys just to cheer on and say hello and all that stuff. But that'll be obviously at 4:30, 2 hours before kickoff. Last one, enjoy it, watch it live, and be part of that stream. We will have a post-game show. Keep in mind, this is always dependent upon a win, a loss, when the game actually gets over with. If it's a loss, it'll be a lot quicker after the game, probably within the hour of the game being done. If it is a win, which we're all hoping for, well, the Auburn fans are hoping for, it'll probably be much later than that. So stay tuned with it. Please be patient. I will get to it as soon as I can because I do go to Toomer's Corner, get some shots of everything, of people celebrating, and then we'll have to come back to the mobile broadcast studio, a.k.a. the back of my car. And it'll be cold, so I'll be happy to be in there. The Auburn Experience, episode 103, our main podcast, the flagship show of everything we do, will be on Sunday again. Looks like it'll be at our regular 9 Eastern time recording time. We thought we might be able to do an in-person one, and I'm not sure that that's going to work out for my schedule necessarily this week. So we're just going to, for now, plan for it to be at 9 Eastern time here live in studio when I get back from the loveliest village on the plains for the last time this football season. Very, very sad. Just because football is getting done at home doesn't mean that basketball isn't going to keep us going. Auburn, Iowa State, Maui Invitational, live post-game show for Iowa State, and there will be more throughout the week as we continue on. And keep in mind that our regular scheduled program, a lot of it will still continue with a preview for the Iron Bowl, with some other things out there are going to happen too. So keep all of that in mind. And check out our links in the description for ways to support us. One of those is being an affiliate of an Alumni Hall. If you go to our link and go buy something there, you support them and support us as well. All right. Let me get away from that. And then let's see what you guys are saying. If Texas A&M is leading late in the fourth quarter, why would they pass? How would we get a pick six? Well, if you're in a situation where you need to get the first down and you say it's like 3rd and 9, then you might pass it. And I could see Marcel Reed, being as young as he is, making a mistake like that. And hear me, I didn't if I did say it, let me correct. I'm not saying it's necessarily late in the fourth quarter. I just said into the fourth quarter, you could be finding a situation where Auburn puts itself in front with a pick six, something like that. Predictions I'm making are probably more so just out of fun nature because it's the last one. Who cares? for the home season, certainly. But we'll go from there. How sad are we that this is the last home game and it's our last game with the wretch? Oh, why'd you have to bring that up? Why'd you have to bring that up? I'm just going to warn you guys to be very patient with the post-game show because now that he has reminded me of that, I'm probably going to linger in the stadium regardless of the outcome to get some last shots and stuff of that. So I just got a idea for a reel too. So thank you for that reminder. If Auburn loses this game and kills all the chances for a bowl game, do we show up at Bama? Yes. You don't give up. You don't have that mentality. You still have an opportunity to spoil your biggest rival and get a win in the Iron Bowl. And that, my friends, is good any week, any day, any season. So it'll be good no matter what. All right. Look, thanks for hanging out. Been a great show. Always appreciate y'all's interactivity. Continue to help us build this group with this family within the Auburn family. Tell your family, tell your friends, help them join in on the conversation. We've got one more of these. It will be on Thanksgiving night. So I do plan to do it, but if a lot of you think you may not be there or may have the freedom to do so, we may forego it. Or we may do it like a night later or something like that. I don't know. So there is going to be some flexibility. I hope you guys will allow us to have next year. Yes. Next week, especially from midweek on, I will be traveling and I will be, having to work around some of that, but that doesn't mean we can't pull off some of things, but just asking for you guys' understanding and flexibility next week as we work around an awesome holiday, Thanksgiving. Thanks for hanging out. I'm thankful for all of you guys, and I hope you guys are getting geared up for the holiday season and enjoy this one because this is the last home game, the last one that you'll get to talk about and be excited about at Jordan Hare Stadium. So enjoy it for all it's worth. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Until I talk to you again, War Eagle.